Welcome to Switching Reels and Merry Christmas in July.
Yeah, the best time to celebrate Christmas.
I thoroughly disagree.
It's because you hate winter and you hate the cold and
That's
the dark
not true.
and Christmas.
I love the winter.
Only one he.
Snowboarding is my sport of choice.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think you prefer to snowboard in the summer, though.
No.
No?
Wakeboarding is fun, but it's not snowboarding.
No, but like if you could snowboard in the summer with no consequences, would you choose that over snowboarding in the winter?
There is something about the cold outside while you are snowboarding.
The warm inside.
That, it's just...
Okay.
It's unmatchable. Now, that said, if I could throw out the dreary cloudiness of winter, I absolutely would. There's a reason I like Colorado.
It is mostly sunny.
Even in the winter. It'll be
those couple weeks in June.
It'll be like -3 degrees and
still super sunny.
Super sunny.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it should be. Like, you can't trust looking out the window in Colorado because you don't know. I always have to look at my watch to go and get temperature readings because I have no idea what it is outside right now.
I check my phone before I go.
Yep.
So
that's a good point.
But yeah, the reason that I say Merry Christmas in July.
Yes. What did we watch?
We watched It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes, it's a Merry Christmas to you all.
Yep. And I don't know where
it's actually really a Christmas movie because like you only get Christmas in the last like little bit. Anyway, you get Christmas. This is a spoiler. Sorry. So I'll wait for a second.
I would argue that it is still a Christmas movie. I just don't think that it is overly
Christmas heavy.
Yeah, I don't think it's a Christmas heavy movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Christmas is just a thing, and it's a good plot. Okay, never mind. Let's keep going.
It's why I'll argue that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, despite the fact that I don't like Die Hard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a very good movie, but I do think that it is a Christmas movie, and it's because it objectively takes place at Christmas. And honestly, I think it has more of a claim to a Christmas movie than this one even does, because there are plot points that are necessary to it being Christmas.
If you're interested in knowing Connor's full take of Die Hard as a movie, stick with us for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
It's like 140 on this list.
I don't know how far down it is, but it's...
Today was number 21, though. So
yes.
We've done a really, really good job so far. We're like 3 technical movies away from having done this for a year, but we've totally been doing this for over a year already.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I need to go back and see which one it was, but this is now our commemorative time of saying, hey, we've done it for a year. So,
okay.
Congratulations.
I feel like that would be 26, wouldn't it? Because we've been doing these every other week, and this is 21.
Yes, you're right.
Oh, but
you're
we've
right.
had a couple...
I did the wrong math, but all of the bonus episodes
We've had a couple of bonus episodes,
and we've done things out of order. We did all the Star Wars.
Oh, yep, that's a good point.
More out of order.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings all count because they're all above us right now. But
yeah.
No, we have totally done this for a year now, basically.
Yeah.
And so, congratulations.
Congratulations to you as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We had conversations and posted them online.
Yeah, for a year.
And not to belittle what you've done, because you also have done all the editing and all that kind of stuff. So like,
appreciate it. Now that you have a computer, I'll give some to you.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Where are we? Recommendations.
Yeah,
nice.
We're right at the beginning.
Yeah, let's do this.
Honestly, this is one that I would recommend to just about everybody. Yeah. I mean, there's some heavy subject matter that I feel like some people wouldn't be cool with their kids watching, but like, honestly, when I have kids someday, I'm gonna let them watch this basically at any age, because I think part of it is the fact that it's handled really well and really subtly as well. I don't think that there's a whole lot of people that, like, even as kids, would be like just horrified by this
completely.
The stuff that is really disturbing is probably more disturbing the older you get, as opposed to being a kid and watching it.
That's a good point as well.
You know, like
I have a
there's
thing
some spoilers, but...
about like outbursts of anger that just like they give me a little bit of oof, and there are multiple like pretty like emotive periods of anger in this and physical violence. So
Yeah.
if those are just to go into it knowing, I would still recommend this to everyone.
Yeah.
Just go ahead knowing that it's was made in the 40s.
Yeah.
So you've been warned.
Yeah. Does it deserve its place on the list?
This is a weird question to me for this movie specifically. I don't know why it's here. I thought it was a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go into talking about that more here in a second.
Yeah.
But even today when you were like, no, we're watching Wonderful Life, I had totally, completely forgotten. It's probably, like, I have a lot of history with this, like, production. And so for some reason, I'm like, I don't know why it is even on the list. I don't know that I disagree that it's on the list, but I don't know why it's here. Like, kind of wandered in.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's fair.
So I would say I wouldn't move it right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe down.
Okay. Yeah, I think that it definitely deserves its place on the top 250 list. And while it does hit me in a more emotional place than I would say most of the movies on this list.
Absolutely.
Ones above it, as well as some of the ones below it that I actually prefer.
And we just watched 7, so
yeah. I mean, I think that this one definitely hits me in ways that those don't. That said, I would probably move it down, just because I feel like its emotional impact and its thematic impact are pretty one note, and they're perfectly executed one notes. But I think that there is some complexity missing with this film. And again, I would still highly recommend it to anyone.
Completely agree.
You know, I don't think that it maybe lives up to the
pedestal that we put it on. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah, so totally agree.
That's kind of where I sit with it.
Let's do some ratings then.
But yeah, it's a weird.
It is. I'm excited to talk about this one.
Yeah.
I think like this one has some really cool themes. It has like really the cast is great. You can go and share about like just the different areas you see this in. So
yeah. Ratings. My enjoyment on this varies a lot. This can be anywhere from like a 6 for me through a 10.
Yeah,
and it all depends on where I am mentally at the time. In some ways, this has become a Christmas movie for me, just because I kind of expected it to.
Yeah.
I didn't see this until like 2 years ago.
Oh, that's crazy. Which is I hadn't seen it until tonight, but there's a very large asterisk there.
I've loved it enough to watch it several times since then.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've probably seen it 4 or 5 times now.
That's cool.
But it's a relatively new movie to my personal repertoire.
Yeah.
Which
seeing something.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So 6 to 10. Where is it today?
Today?
After this watch.
I'd say it probably landed at about an 8.
Yeah, that's what I was feeling.
I enjoyed it thoroughly. Did feel a little slow. And I think that's the biggest drawback for me is when I'm not feeling it, it's because I'm like, okay, let's
move on.
Yeah, let's get to the point. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. As far as technical, this one's all over the place. It's got a lot of the trappings of old films.
Yes, it does.
And some of the stuff that, I mean, you can tell, maybe not you. I'm not trying to belittle you by any means. But,
stab. So much stab.
But you can tell that it was made before Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane changed.
I bet you can.
Citizen Kane changed a lot of the ways that we sort of lit things and
oh yeah, it was very
old
timey. Okay, I now I see the vibe now.
But there's a difference between like there's old timey before Citizen Kane and old timey after Citizen Kane.
This one is the kind of lighting that you expect to see in a theater production.
Yes.
Where it was all in one direction. Like there were the shadows they didn't really care about very much.
Yeah.
And they just hoped for the best when they were shooting.
Yeah. And there are some like random spotlights where you're like,
whoa, high spotlight.
Yeah.
Coming out of this flashlight.
And, I don't have a problem with it necessarily. I think it adds in some way to the appeal of the movie, but for a technical side of things, modern sensibilities have just moved away from it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This one lands somewhere between a 6 and a 10.
Yeah. That's interesting. I've heard this before.
I don't know. I'd probably...
You're more indecisive tonight. This is not a Connor side that I normally see very often.
This movie makes me indecisive.
Yeah, apparently. Wow, this is astounding.
This is like if we had watched Paddington. I would also be wildly indecisive about that.
We should do a bonus episode for Paddington.
That one has a direct line to my heart. Anyway, I'm going to say that this is an 8 from me.
Technical as well? Yeah, just
because it's directly flat. In the middle.
Yes, love that. Perfect. I think enjoyment for me this time around, I really had some really cool vibes, just remembering childhood memories, which I'll get to in a second. I can say that now.
Yeah.
This is the first time watching It's a Wonderful Life, but I have seen It's a Wonderful Life nearly 40 times at this point, guaranteed, because I did spotlights for the play productions for It's a Wonderful Life. And so I, like, some of these lines, I was like, this is drilled into my memory. And it was always a musical. So the moments that they were singing, I was like, wait, this wasn't in the play. But anyway, so enjoyment for me, I think, from the reminiscence and also just the fact it was still enjoyable, detracted a little bit from all of the, like, again, moments of very intense anger. But an 8 as well, I think. Technical, I'll put it as 7. I didn't like all the jump shots and the lighting. It was weird.
Yeah. And some of that, before we move on, some of that is actually a matter of archiving and how films were taken care of. For a long time, films were kind of viewed as like almost newspaper reels kind of thing. And so when you go into like 20s and 30s films especially, you'll see a lot of things where it's just like a random jump shot or that kind of thing. And it's because the film negatives were not taken care of because they figured, well, there's this one this week and everybody's going to throw it out and then we're just going to have another one next week. And it's wild. And at this point we had kind of understood, like, we want to keep our films for the most part. But it's still like there were just some practices that were still around that were not perfect for keeping them intact. So anytime I see a movie before 1950 and it's got jump shots like this, I kind of go, okay, it might be a technical issue. It might just be an archiving issue.
That's so interesting and really cool to know.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's such a different thought and perspective. That's so cool.
Yeah. When we watch Metropolis, which is on this, it's a great movie. That said, there are so many of those like jump shots and that kind of stuff.
That's really funny.
That's one of those ones where they like actively had to search for different film reels and like tried to cobble together the entire movie.
Wow.
Yeah. So the further back in time you go, the more interesting the process gets for that.
It does make me feel more confident about my very short form medium because that is filled with either jump shots or just absolutely overly complex transitions. So
yeah, fair enough.
Wonderful. Okay, so 14 minutes in, let's get to the spoilers.
All right. Like, subscribe, comment.
This is the spoiler territory.
If you do any of that stuff. If you don't do any of that stuff,
comment.
Fair enough.
Or send us emails. We also have an email.
I've got a phone number. I'm not going to say it on the podcast.
But our email is switchingreelspod@gmail.com.
Oh, we have an official email
we actually had this for the last year, and I just haven't said anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you watched our videos, it would be in the comments. But
oh, okay. Yeah. All right, fair enough.
Anyway, into Spoilerland.
All right, so we're gonna do a summary of the movie.
Summary of the movie.
I want to start this one.
Do it.
All right.
This is mischievous. Interesting.
We watch the life of George Bailey as he sacrifices everything that he cares about for other people and ends up miserable. Decides he's going to kill himself. and then is shown how much worse life would be if he had never been born. And then he is saved from the problem at the end by all of the people that he helped.
Part of me, like, I wanted to go and, like, make this slightly more twisted, and I don't know that I can. Like, that was a very, very dry, clinical view, and
I did also try to take the absolute darkest.
That was good.
Portions of the movie.
No, you did a great job. So, George Bailey, who has had just a bunch of combinations of wrong place, wrong time, oldest sibling syndrome, goes through his entire life as an overly caring and obligated oldest sibling, such that he does all of the things that he feels like he should do and none of the things that he wants to do, in his opinion.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie is guilted into thinking that was a good thing.
I like your summary better. Mostly for that last line.
Yeah, I was like, I liked the guilt idea. This is a good one.
All right.
So a little cynical on both counts, I think, but...
Yeah, and I will say, for anyone who watched past the spoiler warning without watching the movie...
you deserve that.
This is a much more lighthearted film than our summaries would lead you to believe.
Well,
there are some... absolute moments of brightness.
There are absolutely a ton, mostly from his wife.
Yeah, that's fair.
She is like the shining light of this movie.
She is. But yeah, I think that, you know, there are a lot of things that happen to him, but, you know, you do come away from the movie feeling like his life does mean something.
Yes.
And like the whole setup with the summary that I gave of him sacrificing everything that he cares about.
Yeah.
Right? He's sacrificing that for other people.
Absolutely.
And
this isn't meaningless sacrifice.
Yeah, you get to watch the other people succeed and thrive because of the things that he's doing.
Exactly.
And that isn't nothing.
No.
By any means.
Not at all. And this only goes up to when he's like 30 or 40. Like, this is very close to his midlife crisis.
Yeah.
And where all of this is happening anyway.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't gotten to the maturity point in, I say, being 40. Not that. They're like, at some point, they're like, you're 27, you have 2 kids and this business. And I'm like, oh. Okay. And...
oh my gosh, I'm 27 next year.
I know. I'm 27 now.
And I have no kids and no business.
Yeah. I have a business, but too many of them. I have too much business. So, yeah, no, as you were saying, the sacrifice here is genuinely good.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his father's heart for it, but he has more technical understanding of like how to run the business effectively and everything. And he would have really been fine if not for his uncle. His uncle at this point, like based on the math, he was 55 when this guy was going to go to college.
How do you figure? I don't remember them giving an age.
Yeah, he said, I'm 55, I can still get a job.
Oh, 56. That's right.
Something like that.
Yeah, so the lady behind him said that he was 56.
Yes, and so based on this math and the age of his kids at the end, and the fact that he didn't get married for another 4 years after that scene, means that his uncle is...
Didn't he?
Yeah, no, because that scene happens.
Oh, yeah, because he gets married after his brother comes back.
And after Mary comes back from college.
Oh, yeah.
And so then he gets married.
Wait a second. He doesn't have a college education, and Mary does.
Yeah, and he's the one running the business. She probably went there for art, is my guess. I'm not trying to be...
She went to film school like me.
She went to film school like you, exactly. But she comes back with this really kind of cool George Lasso's The Moon picture.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And so, but it is a good point that you don't actually know at all what she does.
Yeah, I mean, the indication that we get, because she fixes up the house and everything, is that, like, she's kind of a stay-at-home
mom.
Well, before she has kids, so not even a mom.
It only actually talks about her doing that home stuff after she has kids. Like, kids energized her. She was so excited to do things.
I'm pretty sure she fixed up the house before they had kids.
We'll watch it again, and I'll be right.
Okay, but I'm gonna have to wait till December.
Yes.
Again, this is a Christmas movie for me.
This is a Christmas movie. I would agree with that too. Like, it makes sense. So
yeah.
Anyway, yes. The uncle at that point is past retirement age for sure, and should be being cared for, and not part of the daily business. That was his one flaw. Just kidding. He has a couple.
I have to say, there is something about like truly old school comedy that just it makes me laugh every time.
So good. You were like, there were just moments in this that were just one-liners that you're like, oh, that is the funniest thing. I was like, it was kind of funny, I guess.
I don't know. I think it's the wittiness of the dialogue. It's just, I don't know.
I did like their callbacks, and they did a really good job of portraying different like ages.
Yeah.
While we watched George, even though the actor doesn't change.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool.
He weirdly feels like basically
high school guy.
Yeah, maybe a little old for high school. I would say he feels like more mid-college.
Yeah.
From the time that he
would have been
supposed to be in high school.
Yeah, and actually, so like he was the older one.
Yeah.
And therefore, he'd been out of high school for a little bit
that's
already.
Fair. Okay.
So actually, I think they nailed that too.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, they nailed it all the way through.
They did a great job.
It's only about 10 to 15 years that they have Jimmy Stewart as him, though. Because it's only from the time that he's like mid-college age, so...
Yeah, I say 10 to 20 because their oldest child is like 12.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I don't know if that's an actor issue.
Oh, yeah, we could have actually gone and seen... They had years on there because Harry was coming back from the war and everything.
Oh, yeah, I guess
graduated in 29.
So Harry
15 years?
Died in 1917?
No, it was 1919. He was 1911 to 1919.
Oh, okay, yeah, because he was 8 years old. So if he was 8 years old in 1919, and then we go through 1940...
Well, he had the class of 29. That was Henry's year. Age's year.
Okay.
So if we assume that George is 2 years older than that or something.
This is not what this podcast is for, but I love it.
What this podcast is for. They did a good job with age and portraying it.
Fair enough. Yep. Let's see. What do we got here? Initial reactions.
Did that.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to say, this is one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time.
It is really good.
Yeah, there aren't really a whole lot that I actually enjoy watching. This one I enjoy watching.
Absolutely. And that kind of, I think it really goes into both the character performances and the themes. Like, there's a lot of really cool callbacks and call forwards in this one.
Yeah.
Like, foreshadowing, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And just the general, like, you never actually think that George Bailey really necessarily enjoys what he's doing, but he sees why it's valuable at all times.
Yeah.
Like, he speaks up for his dad's, like, will and drive whenever his dad has died. Yeah. And even when Potter, like, nails it on the head when he's offering him 10 times as much money as he's currently making in a year.
Yeah.
He refuses that because he has and that's a very, very consistent characterization of George, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate the characterization, for one. I think they make it very clear that basically everything you just said.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can't add to that.
Okay.
Although I will say that Jimmy Stewart, for some reason, is one of those actors that feels like he can fit into any role and just be natural there, despite the fact that it feels like he doesn't display more than like 4 emotions.
Exactly, at any point.
But despite that fact, like, he still...
His presence, like, is unique. Like, he is able to change how he portrays himself, even though, like, his emotional range isn't exceptionally large.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
He does a really good job there. Also, water signifies all of his important moments. At least 3 of them.
Jumping into the river.
Yep.
Rainy honeymoon.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, 4 moments. Yeah, that's great.
Okay. The saving his brother.
Yep. And then I'm counting the dance with Mary. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Completely.
I don't know. I think the walk home signifies more than the dance in the pool.
Yeah, that's the beginning. The dance in the pool is the beginning of that walk home.
Yeah.
I'm taking it.
Okay. I'll give it to you.
Thanks.
His wet hair from the snow as he runs home.
Yes.
Does that count as well?
No, but
at the end of the movie,
it's also snowing, so that's water, right? Right.
I suppose. I feel like I'm giving you a lot of points here.
Appreciate it. You haven't made any yet. I'll give you some too.
Ouch. All right.
I'm a little stabby today. I apologize. I will tone down the stabs.
No. Continue stabbing. It's
okay,
fine.
Good.
I just watched It's a Wonderful Life, so
It's a Wonderful Life.
I have a will to live.
Good man.
I can get through the stabs.
You too were also guilted into realizing that your life's okay.
No, I don't think that he was guilted into realizing that his life was okay. He was guilted into accepting the fact that his life was important.
Yes. Begrudgingly accepts.
Yeah, I mean, so this also, I can't think of an earlier example of this, of what I like to refer to as the light fantasy story.
Oh, nice. Good point.
Honestly, I can't think of one before this where it's what I mean by light fantasy is this is not the world is completely different and changed by whatever this fantasy concept is. It is, we have taken our normal everyday world and we've introduced one fantasy concept.
Yes.
He gets to see what his life would be like if he had never been born. A lot of books have done this recently, and it's not my cup of tea, but I absolutely appreciate what can be done with characters and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I can't think of an earlier example of this where it's like...
I'm guessing Casablanca was after this.
Casablanca was about the same time. I want to say Casablanca was 40...
I guess that was also a little bit bigger fantasy.
Casablanca's not fantasy either, though.
Oh, dang it. Which one is the one that has Gene Kelly and the Disappearing City?
Gene Kelly and the Disappearing City.
It's not Casablanca.
No. That one's Humphrey Bogart.
I haven't seen Casablanca either. I want to.
It's on the list. We'll get there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll find it. I can't remember what it's called. Hopefully while I'm editing this, I'll get curious enough and go and add it as a comment as well.
It's Not Singing in the Rain.
Not Singing in the Rain is such a good movie.
Because that one does not have a disappearing city, and it was well after this.
Exactly, and that doesn't have any fantasy.
No.
So,
other than talking movies, those were not actually a thing.
No, they couldn't exist. We say watching a talking movie.
And filming a podcast in which you can see us and hear us talk.
Oh, I feel like we're on a really good train there. Oh, yeah. I was going to say something along the lines of sometimes there's a movie trope where, you do a time thing, and then the entire movie is about this time thing, or something bad happens, and then you reverse time to a point beforehand and nothing actually changes, except for maybe the characters have a better understanding of themselves. This happened in the second Wonder Woman.
I did not see that.
Okay, it wasn't very good.
Yeah, I heard the reviews and went, I'm good.
But spoilers for Wonder Woman. There's a big climactic thing that they're trying to prevent the entire time, and it happens, but then you just reverse time and go back to where it didn't happen. And it's never a really satisfying payoff, and it's not very good. Maybe Wonder Woman learned something. This is a case where it feels like, hey, they use time manipulation in a cool way. It's a unique form of time magic that you don't see in very many other things as well.
Well, yeah, and I think some of it comes down to the fact that they didn't have the climax in the alternate timeline.
Yeah.
So there's the alternate timeline, which is just from the point that he makes a decision to save this guy, and from the time that the angel is introduced,
Clarence.
Yeah, to the time where he basically goes, I don't want to be here anymore. Once he reaches that point, it reverts back to before he met the angel.
Yep.
And he has a changed perspective on his own life.
Exactly.
And I think that's what's really important about any kind of story like this is you have to make sure that the stakes are, you can have the change happen in the alternate timeline, but the stakes have to be based in
the real timeline.
Yes.
Completely agree.
In the official timeline.
Yes, completely agree.
Standout scenes or performances. We're already talking about this a little bit.
Yeah.
I will say, again, just Jimmy Stewart's ability to convey a character with limited emotional range is just wild to me.
Really well done.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing necessarily, but I personally love it.
No, I think he did. And as a George Bailey character, it was perfect. Again, George Bailey isn't the most emotive of people, he has feelings and he has passion for things that are outside of the town, but the reason that he's doing most of these things isn't because he wants to. So I feel like the kind of reserved character was a really, really good one for this.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
So very good performances there.
Oh, I also, sorry, this is completely out of left field, but Potter's character
Potter.
is, so this time around watching him, I got a more devilish feeling from him than I ever have watching it before. I've always kind of got the feeling that he's kind of a low down scumbag, sort of stereotypical
Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah. No. But definitely slumlord, kind of sketchy person. But I think what really clicked for me was in the scene where he's offering George Bailey the job. And he shakes his hand, and the moment he takes his hand away, he starts rubbing his fingers. And I've always thought that was weird.
Yeah.
But you can definitely see the change, and so I kind of always chalked it up to he's just remembering who he's interacting with. This time I got a very different feeling of he was charming his way into the good graces of George Bailey, and then George
felt that.
Yeah, felt that, and had a Aragorn moment of if he was a servant of the Dark One,
he should look fair and feel fouler. Yes. Good Frodo.
And that was, I don't know. I just got
completely agree. No, that's awesome. That's a really good connection. It is a universal truth. He did a great job with playing on George Bailey's fears and his desires, and coming out of that, when George is able to realize, that was close.
Yeah.
I think it's a really, really good scene, and it's a really, really good point.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, themes. Again, I enjoy this, and I feel like it's got very surface level themes that are really well delivered, but I don't think that there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, not super, super deep ones. We've already covered a bunch of George's feelings of obligation, as well as warranted sacrifice. I think it's a really, really big one this whole time.
The value of selfless sacrifice, I think, is central to this movie.
Very much. Goodness gracious. And everyone but Potter exhibits it.
To some extent.
Yeah, exactly. Not majorly, intentionally. Like some people only show it at the very, very end where they go and sacrifice what little they have to help George.
Yeah.
But it's a pivotal thing in this where
Yeah.
Also they talk. Potter makes a slightly offhand comment after George's dad dies. Like this isn't how you create like good working class.
Yeah.
Productive citizens, which is just such an interesting the balance, which is an interesting thing to see in the 40s between like capitalism for capitalism's sake and charity.
Yeah.
Like it was very, very cool.
Well, I think the thing that's most interesting to me, and it feels less of a like a capitalism argument to me, at least, is the idea of grace as it pertains to finances.
Yeah.
And, you even look at how financial systems run today, they are not as dead end as they were in this film.
No, not at all.
The building and loan is probably closer to most
banks at this point.
Most banks at this point. And that's not to say that, all the practices are good there by any means. But, I think looking at it from the perspective of like, no, if Potter's like, they missed a payment, foreclose the place.
Exactly. They're out of there.
And yeah, I don't think that's the way to create productive anything. I think that's a good way to instill fear in just about everybody that needs to take a loan.
Yes, exactly.
So I don't remember where I was going with this, but
I loved it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the next one, technical things that stand out. I think we've already talked a little bit about
I believe the snow was made of asbestos.
Asbestos?
Yeah.
They're all cancer.
That's a technical thing.
It is a technical thing. Absolutely. It stands out. They're all dead now, but they would have been anyway.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
Maybe George Bailey's daughter that he's holding at the end is still alive.
Because she's only breathing in the stuff from his hair.
And she was like 4. And this was 80 years ago.
Was it 80 years ago? Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is an old movie.
Yeah. There's going to be a time, close to by the time we're done with this podcast, that this will have been made 100 years ago.
When we're done with this podcast, I'll have us go through the AFI Top 100.
What's the AFI?
American Film Institute.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
I'll have some experience.
We'll skip most of the ones that we've already seen.
Cool.
But then we'll watch ones that I hate, like E.T.
Ah, I liked E.T. From what I remember.
Fair enough.
I think a lot of people did, though. So.
Yeah. I have personal feelings.
I'm excited for those.
So next week, we are watching what I would consider our first true foreign film.
Nice. Is it subbed?
It is. Yes, it is subbed.
Yay!
It's Seven Samurai.
Cool.
Have you seen it or
No.
any of its?
I am pretty sure
Western
this is a
remakes.
samurai movie.
Yes, it is.
I'm not gonna get.
Have you
into a good,
seen
bad,
any of
ugly.
its Western remakes by any chance?
7 Cowboys?
Magnificent Seven is probably the most
Nope.
prominent. Okay. So just a little primer. It is kind of the grandfather of epic cinema.
I'm so excited.
So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to show that one to you.
I am stoked.
It's
gonna be
films like this that
fantastic.
made me excited to be like, yes, Trenton should go through the top 250 movies.
Finally,
with me.
I've needed one of these.
So, I mean, Seven was also one of those.
I know, but like Schindler's List was one of those for me.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
And I talk about 12 Angry Men so much that one of my coworkers watched it over the weekend.
Oh, really?
Yes. She asked me at one point, what is the most notable film, do you think, from the list so far? I was like, 12 Angry Men. One, because Connor won't stop making fun of me for it, but also because I mentioned it a bunch on the podcast. I have to get at least one 12 Angry Men comment into everyone so far.
Okay, so in your feelings on whether it deserves its place on the list,
Yeah,
should it be?
No, not even. I did compare it to 12 Angry Men in my head. I just didn't say it this time, and it's not as good as 12 Angry Men.
All right. Yes. Well, I think
that's the only rating that really matters for me. I think you should handle technical enjoyment, and I can handle if it's better than 12 Angry
Men. 12 Angry Men is just the yardstick for every movie.
Every movie has to be at least that.
All right. How do we end this?